Hi everyone, my name is Anna Schindler and I am your instructor for Math&142 at North Seattle College this fall quarter. So I just wanted to make this video both to introduce myself and then also to show you all the important things that you need to know about this class. So we're going to be going through some parts of the syllabus and we're also going to be looking at the Canvas for this class so that you can see exactly where you're going to find all the different materials and assignments and all of that kind of stuff for this class. I'm going to try to be as concise as possible, but just based on previous experience, this video will probably be a little bit on the long side. That's because there's just so many different things that students will typically ask me at the beginning of the quarter, and I like to just try to answer all of those questions as much as I can in this video. So what I'm going to do is, if you look in the description of the video just below, you will see some different timestamps that you can use to navigate to different kind of parts of the video. That being said, I would highly recommend that you watch the video in its entirety at least once, just because I don't want you to miss anything that I mention in this video. So, maybe you can just kind of throw it on in the background while you're doing something else if you're really busy. And then later, if there's a different, a certain section that you need to return to, you can use those timestamps to do so. But yeah, let me start by introducing myself. So like I said, my name is Anna Schindler. You can just call me Anna. I actually prefer that students just call me by my first name rather than calling me Professor Schindler or anything like that. So I'm originally from the Boston area. I grew up there and I moved to San Francisco and lived there for about 8 years. And then I went to grad school in San Francisco and got my master's in mathematics at San Francisco State University. And then I moved up to Seattle in about 2017 and started working at North Seattle College in 2018. So I've been teaching at North Seattle College for about 3 years, and I really love it. It's been a great place to work. When I'm not teaching, I really love rock climbing and especially bouldering, as well as hiking, running, basically anything that I can do outdoors, I really love. I also like cooking and baking. And especially since the pandemic started, I've definitely been spending quite a lot of time watching TV and movies. So yeah, that's me. Let me start now kind of going through some of the stuff on the syllabus. So we're going to be jumping back and forth between the syllabus and then, like I said, the Canvas for this class. So at the top of the syllabus is some of the kind of most important information to know. So I have my name, my email address. So the class is going to be meeting on Thursdays from 10 to 10:50 a.m. And you might be wondering, why are we only meeting once a week? And I'll get to that a little bit later. Basically, there's going to be other stuff for you to do on your own time. So the class meeting is really only one small part of what you're going to be doing to learn in this class. I also will have office hours. Those are on Mondays and Thursdays from 3 to 5:30. Office hours are basically just a time that you can come in to talk to me if you have questions, questions on the homework, anything like that. Or if you just want to introduce yourself, just want to say hi, whatever. I'll be there on Mondays and Thursdays from 3 to 5:30. One exception to that, actually, the first week of class, I have a doctor's appointment on Monday afternoon, so I'm going to switch that office hour to being on Tuesday, but I'll send an email out with that information. So both the class and the office hours, those are both going to be through Zoom, and I'll show you on Canvas exactly where you can find the links to those different sessions. Textbook for this class is optional, and I'll get to that a little bit later, so I'll skip past that for now. So course description. So this class, as you probably know, is the second part of the pre-calculus sequence here at North Seattle College. So the first pre-calculus class that you took should have been Math&142. So that class covered functions in general, a lot of different things about functions, and then specifically talked about linear functions, quadratic functions, polynomial, rational, and exponential and logarithmic. I think that's it. All the different types of functions that you should have talked about in your Math&141 class. And so Math&142 takes some of the same kind of ideas of Math&141 in terms of general concepts about functions, but instead of applying it to functions like linear, polynomial, those type of functions, we learn about a new type of functions called trigonometric functions. And so a big part of this class is going to be just kind of learning how trigonometric functions work. And so there is going to be a good amount of geometry in this class. It's just kind of a fundamental part of how trigonometry works is geometry. And so the first video you're actually going to watch for this class is going to be a review of some of the most important things you need to know from geometry. At the very end of this class, we'll also briefly cover a couple of other topics. So that is something called polar coordinates and then conic sections. One other thing I want to mention, and this is not written down here, but it's important to know, is that the final exam for this class is actually cumulative for both 141 and 142. It will have more of a focus on 142, but it will include some of the most important topics from 141. By the way, that is not my policy. That is a department-wide policy. So every 142 class, if they're following the rules, should have a final exam that includes materials from 141. I'll show you when we get to the Canvas. I set up a little module on Canvas where you can see some different materials to help you review review the topics from 141. Okay, so how is this class going to work? Like I said, we're only meeting once a week. And the reason for that is that the majority of the materials for this class are going to be what's called asynchronous. So asynchronous means you do them on your own time. So we'll see where all this is on Canvas, but basically there's going to be 3 to 5 pre-recorded videos for you to watch on your own time. And then each of them is going to have a worksheet. And so the worksheets, they include solutions, and you don't need to hand them in. So they're really just for your own learning. And then, like I said, we'll meet once a week, and the purpose of that meeting is going to be to basically practice the concepts that you should have already learned in the videos. So I'm not going to be like teaching you a new concept in the weekly meetings. I'll definitely do some review, but the majority will just of that session will really be focusing on practicing. So on Canvas, I'll post earlier in the week a PDF of some practice problems that we'll be doing during that weekly session. And I would recommend before the session, maybe trying some of the problems or at least just looking at them so that you have some idea when you go into the session. I think that will just help you get a little bit more out of the session if you kind of aren't looking at those problems for the very first time in the session. I feel like there's something else I was going to say about that, but I don't remember. Oh, I'll also let you know, yeah, that's what it was. I'll also let you know before the weekly session which videos we'll be covering, because I won't expect you to have watched like all the videos before the session, because some weeks there are like 5 videos. So usually I would say it will be like maybe the first 3 videos for the week, maybe even just 2, and some stuff from the previous week is what we'll be covering in the practice sessions. But I'll send out emails to let you know that each week specifically. In addition to that, so that's kind of the learning materials for this class. We're also going to have a variety of different types of assignments. So each week there's going to be an online homework assignment. There's going to be a discussion board, and there's going to be a quiz. And I'll show you where all of that is and how, all the details about that on Canvas a little bit later in this video. We'll also have 2 midterm exams and a final exam. And like I said, everything is posted on Canvas. It's really going to be your responsibility to check Canvas regularly, and that's where you'll see all the due dates, all the assignments, everything. So you want to be very comfortable and familiar with looking at Canvas. So real quick here, I have a breakdown of how your grade is going to be calculated. So what percentage each thing represents. You might notice that the exams are actually not weighed super heavily compared to maybe some other instructors. I know exams are not everyone's forte, so I don't like to weigh them too heavily. Participation, and we'll talk more about how that is calculated, that's weighed actually pretty heavily. So that's something I think sometimes students kind of ignore, but it's a really easy way to kind of ensure that your grade is higher, is if you earn those participation points. And I'll tell you how you do that in a little bit. I also have a table here that shows you how percent grades are translated into GPA. You'll notice that this is not complete, right? There's definitely some numbers that are missing from here. I have a table of my own that is a lot more detailed that I use to actually calculate the grades. So this is just kind of a quick summary to help you get a general idea of what kind of GPA you can expect. Okay, so the textbook for this class, and I'll show you it when we go to Canvas because I have a link to it there, is called Pre-Calculus, Mathematics for Calculus by James Stewart, Lothar Redlin, and Salim Watson. The book is optional, so I'm not going to be assigning like problems directly from the book or telling you, oh, you have to read these pages from the book or anything like that. So the book is really just a resource for your own study. So I would really recommend that you get it, but it's definitely not required. And what I would say is that definitely don't feel like you have to get like the newest, brand new, expensive version of it. If you do want a copy of the book, I would encourage you to just try typing into Google and see if you can find a PDF, get a used copy, whatever works for you is what I would recommend. Don't feel like you have to get like the most expensive new version. You definitely don't need to get, if they try to sell you like WebAssign or Cengage, like online access, you don't need anything like that. If you do get the book, it's really just so that you have a resource that you can, follow along with if you feel like you need a little bit more than what I give you in the videos. Another thing, so in this class, you're definitely going to want a scientific calculator. So that's actually going to be really important in this class because we're going to be using a calculator sometimes to evaluate trigonometric functions. I'll show you when we get to Canvas where you can find an example of a scientific calculator online. There's a lot of apps that you can download for your phone. You can get like an actual physical scientific calculator, or like I said, I'll show you where you can access one online. We'll also be sometimes graphing things. So we're going to be using this website called Desmos a lot, and I'll show you that in a little bit as well. You can just use the website, desmos.com. You can also download an app for if you have a smartphone. Personally, I like Desmos a lot better than like a kind of pre-bought graphing calculator. So if you do have a graphing calculator, you can always use that. But I think Desmos just offers a lot more flexibility. Just kind of a heads up that you will generally not be allowed to use Desmos or a graphing calculator on quizzes and exams. And that's because I might have questions where I ask you to graph something by hand. And, I need to see that you know how to go through that process and that you're not just kind of using a graphing calculator. Okay, so I think I'm now going to go to Canvas and then I'm going to come back as we talk about the different types of assignments. But I just want to make sure you can see kind of where you're going to be finding all of this stuff. So if you've never used Canvas before, what you're going to want to do is I'm going to highlight part of this URL. You're going to want to type in canvas.northseattle.edu, just that part. And that will take you to a login page. And there will be kind of a description. I think it's like just below the login of what your default login and password are. So you can use that to get logged in. You should see a list of all your courses, and then you can navigate to this class. So once you navigate to this class, you should see our homepage. So basically I try to make the homepage have kind of all the essential like quick links. We'll see that the modules section is where we're going to see most of the actual materials for this class. But yeah, so I have a link to the introduction video, which, if you're watching this, you've already found your way there. I also have a link for our class meeting. So like I said, our class meeting is on Thursdays from 10 to 10:50 a.m. And then I have a separate link for office hours. So those are two different, I've set them up as different meetings. So you want to make sure you're using the right link. And then the office hours, like I said, those are generally going to be Mondays and Thursdays from 3 to 5:30. One quick thing to mention is that these links, you can click them at any time, but I'm only going to be holding the meeting at the time that I say I am. So occasionally I'll get emails that like a student has joined your meeting at a time that's like completely not our class time. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm not going to be there. These are not like links for you to instantly meet with me. I'm not just like sitting at my computer waiting for you to join Zoom. I'm only going to be in these meetings during the predetermined meeting time. And one thing I should mention is if you want to meet at a time outside of the normal office hours, if that schedule just doesn't work for you, you can always just send me an email and I'm happy to set up a different time to meet. Okay, so yeah, this is our homepage. Maybe I'll just quickly show you. So I have a link here to our textbook. So if you do want to buy the textbook, this is one place you can do it. Like I said, there's plenty of other ways to get your hands on a copy of the book if you don't want to go through the official site. They do also sell it at the college bookstore, so that's an option as well. I put the exam date, so I haven't talked about this yet, but I mentioned that we have two midterm exams and a final exam. Those are written right here. So you do not need to email me asking when the final exam or the midterms are, you can always just go to our homepage and just see it right there. I also put some other helpful links down here. Some of these we'll talk about later. I guess maybe let me go to Desmos and the scientific calculator because I mentioned those already. So Desmos, like I said, it's a graphing calculator. I think it's really nice. So just to show a quick example, y is equal to x squared. The thing that's really nice about it is you can zoom in and out really freely. You can, do something like this. Like I can say y is equal to ax squared, and then I can change that value for a and see how that affects the graph. It just offers a lot of flexibility. So we'll definitely be using that a lot. Desmos also offers a scientific calculator, which I think is really nice, just very user-friendly. So you can always use that if you don't want to buy a separate scientific calculator. Okay, so like I said, modules is where you're going to want to go to access most of the materials for this class. So I'll get into kind of the typical stuff that you'd see most weeks in a moment, but I first just want to point out this 141 review that I was mentioning earlier. So there's a homework assignment that is due at the very end of the quarter. It's due on the day of the final exam. And I think it's a little longer than a typical homework assignment, but it's not super long. I think it's like 40 questions, something like that. So you're welcome to work on that whenever you want. If you want to do it at the beginning of the quarter, that's fine. If you want to wait until it's closer to the final exam, that's fine too. It's up to you. Just be aware that that is an assignment that will be due at the end of the quarter. I also have a link to a YouTube playlist that has the videos I made for my 141 class. And then I also have lecture notes and worksheets to go along with those. So you have resources at your fingertips for reviewing 141. I would recommend looking at the homework first before you kind of delve into the videos. And the reason I say that is that 141 covers a lot of different topics, and not all of the details of all those topics will be covered on the final exam. So I think if you look at the review homework, that will give you an idea of kind of the level of detail that you can expect on the final exam. And you might be able to save some time and not delve so far into all of these videos if you don't need to. Okay, so most weeks, or all the weeks of this class, we're going to have a module for each week. So that module will say the number of the week and then the dates that are included in that week. It will have a summary at the top. I'll show you that in a moment. It will list out the videos. So like I said, usually there will be, depending on if it's like a holiday week or if there's a test or whatever, there could be only like 3 videos. Most weeks there'll probably be more like 4 or 5 videos. Each of those videos, you'll find a link to it. It'll just take you to YouTube where I post the videos. And then you'll have lecture notes. So the lecture notes are basically just as I'm making my video and I'm writing, I then just export what I wrote as a PDF. So it's just exactly what I wrote during the, while making the video is what you'll see in the lecture notes. I do think that they're a good resource to have, but I would recommend that you take your own notes just because there has been a lot of research to show that actually writing out your own notes is a better way to retain information rather than just kind of like relying on notes someone else wrote. But they're always there as a resource. There's also a worksheet, like I said, for each video. You don't need to turn those in. They do include solutions. So those are just really a resource for your own study. So that's the videos. You'll also see a tab with some assignments. So I'll get into these different types of assignments in a moment. Some of these are extra just for week 1. So there's a couple of just like quick extra assignments that are here, and I'll talk about those a little later. But typically you'll see a homework. So here we have homework 1. You'll also see a discussion board. So this week 1 questions, the homework 1 and the week 1 questions, those are the kind of assignments you'll see every week. These other things here, these are like some extra quick little assignments just for week 1. There's also a tab for the weekly meeting, and for that weekly meeting, like I said, I'll upload a PDF that will be the practice problems we'll be going over during the meeting. And then I'll also upload a recording of the meeting after it's happened. And then finally, we have a quiz every week. And again, I'll get more into detail about that, but you'll always see a description of the quiz posted. So that will tell you exactly what you need to study for the quiz. I like to be very transparent about what is going to be on quizzes and exams. I don't like to surprise you. So, I'll tell you exactly the kind of videos and the specific concepts that I would recommend reviewing before the quiz. And then the quiz itself will also be posted there. So let me get into some more detail about these specific types of assignments. So the homework, I just showed you where it was on Canvas, and we'll click on it in a sec to see what it actually looks like. But typically it will be about 20 to 30 problems. And I would highly recommend working on the online homework throughout the week rather than saving it till the last minute. And I'll show you something that will help you kind of decide how to divvy it up. And then other things to know about online homework is that I do offer late passes, and I'll show you how you use those. But basically, you'll have 4 late passes to use throughout the quarter, and each of them will extend the deadline of a homework by 48 hours. So if you need to extend the deadline, by like 4 days, you can always apply 2 late passes or even 3 late passes. You can divvy those late passes up however you want. And there's no penalty for using a late pass. You don't need to email me. You're just going to do it through Canvas, and I'll show you that right now. So I'm going to click on the homework. And actually, let me do one thing first before I do that. Let me just show you this summary. So the summary at the top of the module, it's going to list out all the assignments and the due dates. That information is also on Canvas, but it also lists, and I think this is kind of the most important part, is it lists all the different videos, and then importantly, it tells you which homework questions kind of go along with each video. And so what I would really recommend doing is, rather than just waiting till the last minute and doing all the homework at once, I would recommend watching a video, doing the worksheet for the video to get a little practice, and then you can go and do the homework problems that go with that video. And this will tell you exactly which homework problems kind of correspond to each video. Another thing is, if you, for whatever reason, you have to wait till the end of the week to actually work on this assignment, I think it's still helpful to look here because if you're on a homework problem and you're like, I don't know how to start this, I don't know what formula to use, I don't know I don't know how to get started on this problem. If you look here, that will give you a really good idea of what video you need to look at in order to figure out how to do the homework problem. So, you might say, oh, okay, cool, that goes with video 3. Let me pull up the lecture notes for video 3, and that might be able to help me figure out, oh, right, it's this kind of problem. I need to use this formula, or whatever it is for that. So, highly recommend taking a look at that. So the homework, you want to click on that. Very first time you do it, it's going to ask you to enter your name. And then one thing I just want to point out right away is, notice here, there's a little button that says redeem late pass. So if you do need to use a late pass, you can click on this. You can do it ahead of time if you already know that you're going to need an extension, but I would recommend, wait until it's actually like past being due, or like, has been due to actually apply the late pass, just in case you end up not actually needing to use it. So then you'll click start. You can navigate freely through all the questions. So for each question, the way it's going to work is that you're going to have 5 attempts on each version of a question. But once you've used up those 5 attempts, you can actually get a new version. So you basically have unlimited attempts on each problem. That being said, I would recommend not sort of like abusing the fact that you have infinite attempts. If you just keep spamming it with different answers in hopes that you'll eventually get the right answer, that's not really a good way to learn. So don't recommend doing that, but just know that the homework is here to help you learn. And so that's why I'm trying to give you as much opportunity to get a good grade on the homework as possible. It's not meant to be something to penalize you, it's meant to be something to help you learn. A lot of the questions have an accompanying video. The videos can be really helpful. I would recommend that you try to do the problem first without the video, because if you think about it, on like a quiz or a test, there's not going to be a video, right? So you want to make sure that you know how to do these questions yourself. So I definitely recommend trying to do it first without the video, but if you get stuck, the video is a really good resource. The video is not on all homework problems, but it's on a lot of them, and I don't make the videos. They're kind of made by someone else. And I guess this is a good time to mention that. So the platform for the online homework is this thing called WAMAP. It's a free open source homework, online homework system. And the problems are written by different math faculty at different colleges in the Washington state. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that, there occasionally might be some little glitches or issues, and it's kind of a trade-off for the fact that it's free, right? A lot of classes will have a paid online homework system that's really expensive, and I really appreciate the fact that this is free. But I just ask for your patience. If you feel like there's a problem that's a little glitchy or weird, you can always just send me an email. I'm happy to take a look at it. I'll give you points if there was an issue with the problem. So don't stress out about that. Just let me know sooner than later. The last thing I want is for you to feel super frustrated and not be telling me that you're feeling frustrated. So just let me know if you're having any issues with the homework. I think that's all I had to say about the homework. One other thing I guess to mention, so there is occasionally students will get some issues with the homework where if they try to access it through this link. So if you go to the homepage, there's this list, to-do list of assignments. If you try to go to the homework using this link after you've already started it, sometimes it won't work anymore. So what I would recommend is just ignore this list over here. I know it's probably useful, but I think it's a lot better to just go to modules where you can kind of see everything in context, but especially for the online homework. If you're having issues, if it says you can't access it, please just use the link in the module section. I've never had students have issues if they click the link in the module section. It's always if they're having issues because they're trying to go on that little to-do list. One other thing, so the way that the online homework works, maybe let me just pull it up one more time. You just submit each question individually. You don't ever submit the assignment as a whole. So it kind of saves your progress as you go. So if you do only 2 questions, it will save those 2 questions and it will temporarily show your grade as being pretty low because you've only done 2 questions. So just be aware that, if you look and you're like, whoa, my homework score is only 20%. Well, that might be because you've only done 20% of the homework, right? So you just have to kind of be aware that the score will be updated as you work. And if you do the whole assignment, eventually, hopefully it will get up to 100%. Sometimes students will get an email telling them, or a notification from Canvas telling them that their assignment was submitted. I don't know why you get those notifications. There's no such thing as submitting the homework assignment. You submit each question individually, but you can always go back to the homework assignment as long as the due date isn't passed, and you can always keep working on it. So don't panic if you get some notification and you're like, oh, my score is only 25%. You can always go back to the homework assignment and keep working on it. You don't need to stress out about that. Okay, so I think now that's everything I have to say about homework. Let me now look at what comes next. So participation. So as I said, 12% of your grade in this class comes from participation. And there's 2 different ways to earn participation. So you can earn participation by attending the weekly Zoom meeting. And you can also earn participation by making discussion board posts. So the way it's going to work is that if you attend the weekly meeting, then you only have to make 1 discussion board post. If you do not attend the weekly meeting, then you need to make 2. Either way, so you can do attend meeting, 1 post, or you can do 2 posts, not attend meeting, and either way you'll get full credit for participation. You're always welcome to make more posts than that, but yeah, that's kind of the requirement for getting full credit. So the discussion board you'll find here, it's where it says week 1 questions. Did I click? There we go. Oh, sorry, my internet maybe is being slow. So the kind of questions that you can ask on the discussion board are basically questions about math. A lot of students will ask questions about the homework, but you're not limited to asking questions about the homework. You can also ask just sort of general conceptual questions. You can ask questions about a worksheet or a video, as long as it's related to math and, ideally the math that we're actually learning in this class, that's fine. You can also answer questions. So sometimes I'll get students who are like, I don't know what to post on the board. I did all the homework. I don't have any questions. Well, then you can go and you can answer other people's questions. You can answer a question that's already been answered. I don't have a problem with multiple people answering one question as long as you're kind of adding something a little different. I think a lot of people will benefit from actually reading multiple explanations to answer their question. So definitely feel free to answer a question that's already been answered if there aren't any unanswered questions yet, and if you don't have any questions of your own. Other couple things to mention is that if you are asking a question about the homework, in order to get credit, you need to give a little bit of context. So what I mean by that is if you just post like, "Hi everyone, how do you do number 5? I'm totally stuck." I'm not going to give you full credit for that because you're basically just asking someone else to do the homework for you. So instead, what I would do is be a little bit more specific, show your work. You can always upload a photo showing what work you've done. You can just kind of try to type it out. Describe what you've tried. If you are completely stuck, explain why you're stuck. Like, why is it that you're stuck on that homework question? What makes that homework question different from the other ones? Just like any kind of context you can give that can help people answer your question in the most helpful way possible, so that they're not just generically telling you how to do the problem, that they're actually addressing what your specific confusion with the problem was. Similarly, if you're answering a question, just keep in mind that you want to help the student that you're answering learn, right? You don't want to just give them the answer. You want to give them the tools that they need so that they can answer the question themselves the next time around. So like I said, if you attend the weekly meeting, then you only need to make one post, so it could be a question or an answer, to get full participation credit. If you do not attend the weekly meeting, then you need to post 2. Okay, I think that's it for participation. Let me just show you a couple other things with discussions. So there's one that we'll get to in a little bit that's specific just for this week. 2 other things I want to mention. So I have a typos and errors discussion board. So if you find a typo or a mistake or anything like that in a video or a worksheet, whatever, feel free to post that on the typos and errors board. You can also email me, but that way other students can also see, if they find the same error, they can look and say, oh, okay, that's already been addressed. One thing to mention is that if there is an error in a video, I'll usually correct it in the description for the video. So anytime you're watching a video, I would recommend just looking at the description box below it just to see if there's any corrections that I made. I also put a discussion board for you to post your pet photos. I don't have a pet, but I wish I did. Our apartment doesn't allow them. So I always just like to see people's pets. People sometimes also post pictures of their plants if they don't have pets, whatever. I just like to have something a little bit fun that's not necessarily about math. That is kind of a fun way for people to share something about themselves. Okay, I'm gonna go back to here. Okay, so quizzes. Like I said, most weeks we're gonna have a quiz. The quiz will be on Friday. The quiz is gonna be available all day, so from 9 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. However, once you start, there will be a time limit. And so usually the time limit will be about 45 minutes. The quiz itself is gonna be designed to take probably 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes. But I like to give extra time just because you need to then photograph and upload your quiz. And I'll talk a little bit more about that process, but I'm gonna send out more information about that process later. I don't wanna make this video too super long. But yeah, the quiz will generally cover problems based on materials from the beginning of the week and maybe even the previous week. And the reason for that is that I want to give you time to digest things, right? I don't want to be okay, I expect you to watch all 5 videos for this week and know all the material from them, and I'm going to quiz it on you on Friday. I want to make sure that you actually have had the chance to really learn the topics that are on the quiz. So like I said, I showed you on Canvas that there will always be a description of what's on the quiz. So I'm not sure if I updated this yet. Yeah, so this date is not correct. This is from a previous quarter, but this is what you can kind of expect. It will tell you that, which kind of videos or sections you should look at, and it will tell you specifically what you should be able to do. You should be able to use the Pythagorean theorem, things like that. Things that are very specific. Okay, so that I think is it on quizzes. Last thing was that I do drop your lowest quiz grade. Okay, exams, similarly, exams will be very similar to quizzes in their format. So there are 2 midterm exams on Friday, October 22nd, as well as Friday, November 19th. And then the final exam will be on Tuesday, December 14th. Just like the quizzes, the exams will also be available all day, but they'll have a time limit once you actually start. I will post for the exams a review. I don't do that for quizzes just because quizzes are kind of shorter, lower stakes. But for the exams, I'll post a review, usually about a week before the actual test to give you plenty of time to study. If you do have a conflict with any of the exam dates, definitely let me know right away. I'm flexible. I can let you take the exam a different day if you tell me ahead of time. If you email me like that day, I'm generally not going to make an exception. But as long as you let me know ahead of time and you have like a valid reason, I'm usually happy to work with you to reschedule things. So I mentioned this a little bit, submitting quizzes and exams. Basically, when you actually go to the quiz or exam, you'll start it and it will give you a PDF to download. And so you'll download that PDF and you can either print it out or just look at it on your computer screen. And then if you do have a printer, it's really nice if you can print out the quiz or exam and write your answers and work directly on the paper, because it's just a little more organized that way. It just kind of helps me grade it more efficiently. But I know not everyone has a printer. So if you don't have a printer, you don't need to do that. You can write your work and answers on separate paper, just keep everything really organized, show all of your work, etc. And then what you'll do is you'll take pictures, or you could even scan your work and then convert it to a PDF and upload it. And I know that maybe sounds like a lot. Like I said, I will send out a later email and maybe even make another video that goes into that process in a little bit more detail. Some people have tablets and they'll just like, download the PDF and just write directly on the PDF using their tablet and just submit that. That is great. Those are very nice and neat, usually easy to grade. And one thing I'll just add here is that on every test and quiz, there will be some small portion of the points that are allotted to what I call format. So basically, is your work neat? Is it legible? Did you put the questions in the right order? Are the pages in the right order? So it's basically a way to get free points. So I think on quizzes, it's 2 out of 10 points. So you can get 2 free points on your quiz, literally just by keeping things neat and legible. And then on exams, it's typically like 5 points out of the total number. Okay, so that's like general stuff. That's stuff that's going to be every week. I now just want to briefly mention a couple of assignments that are specific just for week 1. And I know this might feel overwhelming. I promise you these assignments I'm about to show you are very quick. They're not scary or hard or anything like that. So the first assignment that is specific for this week is what's called a syllabus quiz. So this basically just ensures that you've either watched this video or read the syllabus, or hopefully both. It will just ask you questions that you can answer by reading the syllabus. So things like, match each component of the course to the percentage of your grade it represents. So you can literally just go look at the syllabus, find that information, put it in. You can take this quiz as many times as you want. There's no time limit. Basically, you should be able to get 100% on it. And it's basically just designed to make sure that you are aware of everything you need to be aware of in this class. So that is due on, I believe, Sunday, the end of the week. Similar to the homework assignments are generally due on Sunday. This will also be due on Sunday. Another assignment that is specific to this week is this introduction survey. So this one is actually due, it's the earliest assignment, it's due on Wednesday. And the reason for that is that part of this survey is going to ask you to upload proof of your prerequisites. And I need to make sure that, that you are qualified to be in this class. And so I like to get that out of the way sooner than later, so that if you're not qualified to be in the class, you'll know that, very early in the quarter, and you'll still have time to, switch up your plan and take a different class. But yeah, so this survey, I'm the only one that's going to be looking at this. It basically just asks you for some different information about yourself. Here I ask you if there's a different name you want me to use other than the name that is kind of your default name on Canvas. And by the way, you can change your display name by going to here where it says account. I don't think I can do it now because I'm in like student view, but if you click on account and then you click on profile, you'll see a place for you to edit your name. And so that's really nice, because then when you're participating in like the discussion board or anything like that, students will see the name that you want them to see and not just, whatever your default name is on Canvas. Similarly, you can add pronouns. So I ask you to share your pronouns here, and then you can also add those on Canvas so that, again, in the discussion board, for example, or just in your kind of contact with me, I can see what pronouns you would like me to use. Yeah, so placement, basically just, a bunch of different information. Shouldn't take that long. I think probably only takes maybe like 10, 15 minutes to do this. Like I said, this is due on Wednesday, the 29th. And then there's just one more assignment that is special for this week. And that is that there's one extra discussion board. And basically it's just, like I said, the introduction survey that we were just looking at, I'm going to be the only one looking at that. And so this is going to be similar, but just for other students to get to know you. So you're just going to tell everyone in the class, what is your name, what are your pronouns, what is your major or program at North, and then what's something you like to do in your free time, just so that you're going to be all interacting with each other. This is just a way for you to get to know the other students in your class a little bit. I'm sure I forgot something, but I think that is most of what I want to show you on Canvas. So I'm going to go back to the syllabus, and I think there will be a thing or two that will bring us back to Canvas. But yeah, so I want to talk now a little bit about what I call sometimes my teaching philosophy, which sounds very fancy, but it's basically just some things that I think are important that I think you should know because they really impact the way that I teach, and that way you can kind of understand why I do things the way I do. So the first thing I put here, and this is really not specific to math, but I think this might be the most important thing, is that we're all human beings, and I just really want you to know that I think of you all as human beings before I think of you as students. I know that you have a lot of other things going on in your life other than school. I know that you have value as a person that really has nothing to do with how you perform in my class. So it's really important to me that you know that. I try to keep that in mind when I kind of design this class. I don't try to give excessive amounts of homework or assignments, things like that. I know that you have other stuff going on. I like to be very flexible if you have things that come up that mean that, you need some flexibility in deadlines or things like that. Just communicate with me and I'll see what I can do. And then furthermore, I really want students to do well in this class. Like I want you to learn. I love teaching, and I love when students have a satisfactory experience and really feel like they're learning the material. But I know that doesn't happen for everyone for a variety of reasons. And I just wanted you to know that I don't judge students based on how well they do in my class. I don't look down on you if you do badly on a test, nothing like that. I feel like most quarters get like at least one email from a student kind of apologizing to me that they did badly on a test. And it always just breaks my heart because I'm like, you really don't need to apologize to me. Obviously I want you to do well, but I don't ever want you to think that you're like letting me down or anything like that. And then similarly, I'm a person too, right? I think sometimes students might think of their teacher as just like, oh, they're just a teacher. But like, I'm a person, I have a life. I work really hard. I put a lot of time into teaching, but I do have a life outside of school. So I just ask that you respect that and, try to treat me as a human being as well. Okay, so now getting to some things that are like a little bit more specifically about math. So one thing that I believe is that math is really more about understanding than it is about memorizing. So I really try to focus on concepts more than formulas in my classes, and really it's very, very rare that I'll give you a formula without explaining or showing you kind of where it comes from. So yeah, so you should expect that there will be kind of an emphasis on understanding why things work and sort of looking at the conceptual side of things rather than just giving you kind of a list of definitions or formulas to memorize. And then similarly, on the tests, I will give you questions that are really designed to test like how well do you understand these concepts, not just like can you rinse and repeat some procedure that you memorized. Another thing is that math is not a spectator sport and it isn't easy. And so the isn't easy part I'll get to in a second. Not a spectator sport. What do I mean by that? Well, just like anything else, if you want to get good at something, you're not going to get good at it just by watching someone else do it, right? So like an example that I give sometimes is like, let's say that you're a skateboarder and you want to learn some new trick. You're not just going to sit there and watch like 10 videos of people doing the trick on YouTube and then think that suddenly you can do it, right? Watching the videos will probably be helpful. but then you're going to need to get out there and actually try it yourself. And you're probably going to fall a lot of times before you actually get it right? Like you have to actually try things yourself. And it's really, really similar with math. And I think sometimes people kind of forget that. You're not going to learn just by watching a video of someone else doing something. You really need to be willing to get your hands dirty and try things yourself. And sometimes you're going to fail. You're going to do things wrong, and that's going to be a good learning experience. So I really recommend that when you watch the videos for this class, that you are watching them actively. So, I'll frequently recommend that you pause the video and try an example yourself. And you're welcome to that even when I don't recommend it. Even if I'm just like doing an example, pause the video, try the example yourself. I think you'll get a lot more out of the videos if you have that more kind of like active mentality rather than just kind of trying to soak it in. Also, I recommend doing the worksheets, right? Those give you another opportunity to practice things yourself. I recommend doing the homework and, trying it yourself before you go and watch the video or look up how to do it, etc. And on that note, math is not easy. And I don't say that to be intimidating. I don't say that to be discouraging. I just want you to be aware that you might find this class challenging. Some people don't. Some people, most people at some point in their math career hit a class that they find challenging. For you, that might be this class. For other people, maybe it's a later class. But if you do find this class challenging, I just really don't want you to be discouraged. I think a lot of people kind of have a mindset with math that like either you're a math person or you're not. And I just think that that is a really damaging mindset to have. I think that everyone is capable of succeeding in this class. It will take some people more time and effort than other people. And if you find yourself in that situation, I just really don't want you to give up. I want you to recognize that struggling is part of the process, and that if you're persistent and you kind of seek out and take advantage of the resources available to you, like me, like your classmates, you should be able to get to the point where you can be successful with these concepts. Last thing is that math is collaborative. So what I mean by that is that, you don't need to be all alone when you're learning things. Sometimes I feel like students get in this very lonely place where they're kind of stuck and they don't understand something and they feel like they have to kind of figure it out all by themselves. And I really think that is not the right way to think about things. I want you to know that I'm here to help you. Other students in your class are here to help you. And when we're in person, I think it's a lot easier to implement this kind of collaboration idea, being with other students in class. But even remotely, take advantage of the resources that are there and just know that we're all rooting for each other, right? We all want everyone to succeed, myself included. And so don't feel like you have to figure out everything by yourself. Okay, couple more things. So academic honesty. So this is a big one with online learning. So a couple different parts to this. So first I just want to talk about like, what are the sort of appropriate ways to use the internet in this class to kind of help you learn. So the internet is great, right? There's so much out there. There's like so many YouTube videos about every single concept. There's just a ton. And in most ways that's really great, right? We have like all this stuff at our fingertips. But I think that sometimes it can actually kind of hold you back from learning. So for example, if you're doing a homework problem and you look at it for like 30 seconds and you're just like, I don't know how to do this, and you just immediately copy and paste it into Google, you're not really practicing the process of figuring something out, right? Like you're kind of skipping over that part where you have to actually be like, okay, what concept is this related to? And sort of make all those connections. And so you're really kind of robbing yourself of learning if you're kind of using the internet in that way. So what I would say is, try to do things yourself first. Take advantage of the internet to kind of help you learn concepts, to help you if you're like really, really stuck. But don't rely on it as a crutch because, although you're totally welcome to use the internet during homework, you are not allowed to use it during tests and exams. And so if you're relying on it too much for homework, well, then you'll probably find yourself in a position where you'll end up cheating on quizzes and exams. So on that note, on quizzes and exams, you're not allowed to use the internet. So that includes Googling things, that includes posting on Chegg. I know about all those things that are out there, and every quarter I catch students cheating. And it doesn't make me happy. I'm not like, ooh, yes, I'm catching students cheating. Of course I want students to do well in this class. It really, it's hard to give students zeros, but this is something that I'm not flexible on. If you are caught cheating, you will get a 0 on that assignment, just on that assignment. If you're caught cheating another time, then you'll receive a 0 in the class and be reported to student conduct. So hopefully you're now aware of that policy. And yeah, I think it's not just about the whole cheating thing. It's really about like setting yourself up for success in your future. You're most likely going to end up in a class or some kind of situation in the future where you do have to figure things out yourself. And so you really want to kind of set yourself up to be able to do that. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. A couple more things. So getting help. So I already mentioned I have office hours. I really, really recommend that you come to office hours if you're confused about anything. And in office hours, we can really like have a conversation and talk through things. You can also send me an email. I'm happy to answer questions through email, although sometimes I might be like, what, this is a little complicated. Let's get on Zoom. But yeah, with emailing me, I will generally check my email during kind of typical business hours. So I said 10 to 6, 9 to 5, something like that. If you email me outside of those times, that's totally fine, but just don't expect that you're going to get like an immediate response. I might occasionally email you back, at like 9 p.m. or whatever, but don't expect that. I'm not a 24-hour tutor. I do like to keep some semblance of work-life balance, even while teaching from home. So yeah, just feel free to email me whenever, but just don't expect that I'm gonna like get back to you immediately, especially if it is outside of typical business hours. You can also post questions on the discussion board. That does happen to be pretty happening on like 11 p.m. on Sunday, right before the homework is due. So if it's too late to email me, definitely think about doing the discussion board. And then one other thing is that the Math Learning Center has virtual tutoring. So I have a link to that on our homepage. And I believe they're actually also doing some in-person tutoring, and I'll send information about that out when I know it. But yeah, they have online Zoom tutoring. I think there's like a link to click here. Yeah, click here to access tutoring through the Student Learning Center Canvas shell. I think that's the link you want to click. So definitely take advantage of that. They're very helpful. A lot of my former students work as tutors, and they're great. So lots of things are available to help you. Don't feel like you have to go it alone, as I mentioned earlier. Last thing I think I'm going to mention from this, there's still some more stuff on the syllabus, but I'll let you kind of read through that yourself. So if you have a disability, I'm more than happy to give you the accommodations you need. However, you do need to go through the official process. I can't just kind of give out random accommodations. You need to go through disability services. So if you click this link, that will take you to their page. They have a process for it. They'll then send me an email that tells me exactly what accommodations you'll get, and then I will be more than happy to implement those. So sometimes that process, I think, takes a little bit of time. I'm not sure where they're at these days with things being remote, but I would just get on that sooner than later if that applies to you. Okay, I think that is everything. I mean, there's more, like I said, for you to read through yourself, but I think that is everything I want to say. Let me just quickly look and see if there's anything else that pops into my brain. I'm sure I forgot something, but yeah, feel free to email me if there's a question that was not answered by this video. And yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you all and working with you this quarter.